chaos, distortion, brilliance, chaos, fusion, monsters. If tomorrow is Saturday, Thulhu will come to the world. The demon from ancient times opened his blood basin and spit out God and dinosaurs fighting each other. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are riding a giant toad, and Snow White and Gorgeous are laughing and laughing. The use of money by the poor is a crime, and the use of money by the rich is an interest. The faceless man not only eats the dead, but also eats 1/2 of his father. Everyone took off from the stove, kissing each other in the air, their lips were corrosive, and a skeleton dropped. The dead head hung on the desk in the kindergarten, the last teacher, he also got AIDS. What? A scream came out from his mouth, and a man who seemed to be in his 30s woke up from the bed. His brain was in chaos just now, and various bizarre scenes appeared one after another, almost making people lost and collapsed. The room was dark, and Chen Xing just lay motionless on the bed. The scenes in his dream kept appearing just now. In the extreme chaos, an old man with exploding head and big eyes suddenly appeared and punched him to wake him up. If it weren't for this punch, Chen Xing suspected that he would be lost in it forever, because this dream was so real that it didn't look like a fake. Feeling dry mouth, Chen Xing reached out and touched the bedside table to turn on the lamp, but after touching it, he found that there was no lamp at all, let alone the lamp, not even the bedside table. Before I figured out what was going on, there was another pain in his brain, and Chen Xing fainted directly. In his consciousness, Chen Xing was floating in the universe, and the old man with the explosive head who had just punched himself appeared again. His eyes were blurred, his mouth was drooling, and he was still holding a bottle of whiskey in his hand. After the two looked at each other for a while, the old man suddenly turned into a light and penetrated into Chen Xing's brain. At this moment, it was like a big bang in the universe. Even though he had passed out of a coma, Chen Xing still felt a splitting headache, countless memories poured in, his brain neurons began to activate over frequency, the originally closed brain nerves began to penetrate one by one, and the brain entered a state of rapid development. 3 days later, Chen Xing got out of the bed trembling. He was hungry because of the thunderstorm in his stomach. He only felt very hungry, but his consciousness was very clear and he was very clear no matter what he looked at. This kind of clarity is not the reason for the improvement of eyesight, but that he is able to understand the fundamentals of things, including principles, trajectories, structures, etc., and he can feel that his brain is rapidly increasing. If he used to be in a wheelchair, now it is to drive a Ferrari. And what brought him all this was the Afro old man. Although the old man is a bit like Einstein, he is not Einstein. He is the original world super high scoring, super powerful manga Rick and Morty Rick, the grandfather in, and Rick of the C137 universe. Rick and Morty is a multiverse worldview comic, which means that every universe has a grandfather Rick, and their destiny is different, and their IQs are different. Only Rick in the C137 universe is the strongest, and it is recognized that all the smartest man in the universe. His IQ is unmatched. Inventing and creating all kinds of black technologies is as simple as eating and drinking water. You can make anything you can think of, such as stealth belts, life archive remotes, neutrino bombs, and even science. Analyze magic to create magic props. But compared to his grandfather's genius, he is cynical, arrogant, and rebellious, and few people can be seen by him. He overcame the Galactic Federation with his own power, smashed the Demon King in a drunken state, and even had a fight with Zeus because of a woman. Although he did not win this fight, it also caused Zeus to shed a lot of blood. Now, Chen Xing merged with Grandpa Rick and got everything about him. Looking at this unfamiliar home, he finally understood that he had traveled, and everything he had experienced in the past 3 days was a sequelae caused by the travel. Touched his pocket, took out his driver's license, and saw Jude Herbert written on it, a name not too bad. Of course, in addition to the driver's license, the host also left him some money. It was a huge sum of $57, and according to memory, he still owed the local gang $3,000. Opened the refrigerator door to find something to eat, but found that apart from Coke, which is beer, there was not even a bit of food to fill the stomach. Fuck. I must never be the first traverser who starves to death. Clutching his stomach and walking slowly out, opening the old door, pressing down the elevator of the last century, Jude slowly walked out of this old apartment. According to the memory of the original body, there is a Mexican restaurant tens of meters away from the apartment. The pancakes and grilled meat rolls there are delicious and cheap. Staggered into the restaurant, the boss was a big fat man weighing 200 catties, and when he saw him, he said, "Herbert, your kid hasn't appeared for 3 days. Have you found a fortune?" Jude found a place where no one was around and sat down. "Come on, Sears, there is no way to make a fortune, I just suddenly felt confused and lay in bed for 3 days. You know, 3 days, it was 3 whole days. Dizziness and hunger flooded me, I thought I would understand something, but Mom messed with Faker, there was nothing, so now I need barbecue rolls and chicken rice, right now." Soon, the proprietress Anna came over with a plate. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com put the food down and stared at Jude for several seconds, with surprise in her eyes. "Herbert, are you crazy about taking drugs? Why? Such a ghost." Jude said, Okay, I understand, doesn't it just look a bit older than a teenager? Doesn't it need to be so surprised?" Jude discovered when he was just looking at his driver's license that his legal age is only 21 years old, but if you look in the mirror, you may believe that he is 40 years old. After all, you can't expect a man with white sideburns to be young. Jude knows very well that this is a sequelae of the fusion with Grandpa Rick. After all, Rick is 80 years old. Even if the average age of the two is taken, he is 50 years old. It seems that he is less than 40 and he has already earned it. Anna frowned and left, and Jude began to gobble up the food like a starving ghost reborn. In just 5 minutes, a large plate of chicken rice and 3 barbecue rolls had been stuffed into his stomach, and Jude felt better. At some point, he collapsed on the chair and started to close his eyes to rest, listening to the sound on the TV. Now we are reporting the latest news from the metropolis. The metal man escaped from prison last night. The police are pursuing them with all their strength. A falling fighter was found deep in the Atlantic Ocean. According to research, it was a military fighter during World War II, and a frozen man who was suspected of being Captain America was found in the fighter. In Midtown News, the rogue ransacked 7 gold stores and 2 banks in a row. The initial estimated loss was $400 million. The Midtown police called the Flash. Stark Industries announced that they have made breakthroughs in the field of new energy. The mutant attacked a military base in North Carolina for an unknown purpose. What the hell? Jude stared blankly at the news that was being broadcast on TV. At this moment, he realized that he did not come to a beautiful country in the real world, but a beautiful country in American comics, and a fusion of DC and Marvel. World. Compared with the real world, there is no need to say how dangerous the American comic world is. Not to mention all kinds of superheroes and supervillains, there are countless powerful existences in the vast universe, the depths of the starry sky, and the multiverse. For example, the 2 most famous supervillains, DC's Darkseid and Marvel imitating Darkseid's purple sweet potato spirit Thanos, these 2 guys have a strong desire to conquer and destroy. Not to mention that there are also god-level villains such as Domum, Sanomia, Celestial Group, Anti-Monitor, Blagnak, Dark Death, Primal Transcendence, Cetolak, etc. These people love the earth if nothing is wrong. Wandering around and making troubles, casual shots will be broken, and there are countless casualties. And in such a world, the first thing to do is to protect yourself so that you don't get affected by the aftermath of the battle, and you don't know how you died. No wonder I merged with Grandpa Rick. It turns out that I crossed into such a dangerous world. How can the fusion of ordinary people survive? But thinking of his abnormal brain, his fear dissipated a lot. What is so great about a superhero? As a scientist, if I am not satisfied, I will change it. If I can't change it, I will destroy it and dare to stop me. Even the gods will kill you too. Touched the corner of his mouth, dropped $20, Jude got up and walked out of the restaurant. Just as he was about to leave, the voice of the boss Sarah sounded. Herbert, remind you that the people from Bigfoot came to eat yesterday, and they said that you owed them a lot of money during the chat. It will be a few days later. If you can't pay back the money, they will have to take your 1957 Chevrolet away. What? That is my most valuable thing, more important than my life. So I said, don't borrow money from them, their goal is your car. Thanks, Sears. Jude frowned and left the restaurant. That old Chevrolet car was considered an old antique. It was a treasure that could be put in an automobile museum. He wanted to drive away for $3,000. It was a dream. Didn't know what the original host thought. Knowing that Bigfoot was greedy for his car, he even chose to borrow money. First returned to the apartment to get the car repair tools, and then according to memory, found his vintage car in the parking lot next to the apartment. Among the many cars, it really stood out from the crowd. Jude patted the hood and said, your original owner has obsessions. He doesn't want others to ruin you, but I am not a car lover, so you may be ruined by others. Let me ruin it first. Said that he took the wrench and pliers and unloaded the engine, followed by the tires, chassis, and body. In less than half an hour, under Jude's super Hansen ability, an antique classic car turned into a pile of scrap iron. Then Jude picked the parts, took away the needed packages, and returned to the apartment with a bag. Gears, distributors, spark plugs, transmissions. Very good, it happens to be a small simple laser weapon rack. Jude poured a sip of beer and quickly assembled and disassembled with both hands. Grandpa Rick's invincible technological talent and practical ability were reflected at this moment. First, take out the remaining gasoline in the Chevrolet, then neutralize a quarter of the water, then dilute it with a filter and a sanitary napkin, add 1/16 of the Coke in the middle, and finally add 3 drops of cod liver oil. When everything is combined, the original gasoline has also become a barely usable liquefied petroleum gas. Then a rubber tube was used to connect the oil pump drive and the ventilation valve, and a simple spray gun was manufactured. After drinking the beer in one sip, Jude said to himself, it's time to work. I took out the lighter in my pocket and ignited it, and the liquefied gas spewed out, forming a pillar of fire instantly. The originally irrelevant auto parts began to melt and connect under the high temperature. In less than an hour, a palm-sized laser transmitter frame was made. Come out. Now I still need an energy battery. Jude began to look at the layout of the room, and finally fixed his gaze on the TV set by the wall. 5 minutes later, the TV was dismantled to pieces in an unwilling squeak. Jude picked up the picture tube, power supply board and standby power supply. After disassembly and assembly, a 2-finger-wide black battery appeared. The battery can be fully charged as long as it is placed in the sun for 2 hours. Although the reserve is not large, it should not be a problem to support 20 or 30 launches. After doing this, Jude breathed a sigh of relief. He couldn't do anything with this small laser transmitter. Although Grandpa Rick had a super strong melee combat ability, the problem was that this body was too weak. Even with Grandpa's combat memory, the body of the small arm can't be stretched, and the biggest result of fighting with people with this body is to twist or dislocate the bone first. But with a laser transmitter, everything is different. If the people of UU reading www.uuganshu.com Bigfoot Gang dare to find faults, they can come and go. After doing this, Jude began to explore the memory of this body. Due to the fusion with Grandpa Rick's powerful mental power, the memory of the original owner was almost squeezed and became fragmented. If you want to remember it clearly, you will waste it. Quite a lot of energy. It took an hour for Jude to figure out a little bit of clues. It turns out that he is now in Gotham City, which is known as the most dangerous and crime rate in the United States. Regarding Gotham City, even Superman once said that Gotham's criminals are more frightening than his own enemies. It's easy to understand this sentence, because Gotham's criminals are either insane or psychopathic. They have almost no sound personality. Although these criminals have no super destructive power, their criminal methods are even more denigrating and challenging the bottom line. Some information about the Bigfoot gang was also found. This gang is one of the newly emerged gangs. There is nothing special about it, maybe there are, but an ordinary person can know how much. And the original host's intention to borrow the $3,000 was also found. It turns out that his playmate Ivy, who grew up with him, was put in jail for theft. Ivy has no friends and can only ask him for help. Out of ignorant sentiment when he was young, the original host decided to bail Ivy, but a poor boy who got the money, only earned $500 after working hard for a week, which is far from bail. There was no way. The original host resolutely borrowed $3,000 from Bigfoot, but after arriving at the prison, although the deputy warden took the money, he did not release the person. Instead, he laughed and told him that Ivy had been transferred. Yes, he came late, and then he was thrown out. The original host returned to the apartment in despair, and Chen Xing happened to pass through and occupy his body. After clarifying the ins and outs of the matter, Jude's mind also appeared like Ivy. The two should have not seen each other for a long time. Jude only looks like Ivy in prison. A girl with disheveled hair and sloppy hair looks in a bad state of mind. It is estimated that she has not received good treatment in prison. After some thoughts, Jude decided to find Ivy, which was the last explanation for this body. There was a sudden knock on the door, and someone outside the door screamed loudly. "Jude Herbert, I know you are inside, open the door." Bang bang bang. There were several violent knocks on the door. The old door couldn't bear it. When he was violently pushed open, 5 men with messy hair, different heights and fats, and tattooed men broke in. Jude had expected this. He dismantled the Chevrolet Classic car, and it's strange that Bigfoot didn't come to trouble him. Opened the refrigerator door and opened another bottle of beer to pour it down. Jude said in a leisurely manner, "Bigfoot." "Yes, it's us, kid, what's the matter with your car? Why did it become a pile of scrap iron? I took it apart." Hearing this, the 5 were taken aback for a moment, and then suddenly furious. "Why did you demolish it? Do you know how much it is worth? Now it is completely destroyed. You have to compensate me for $300,000, no, 3 million. Jude pursed his ears and said, "Sorry, I seem to only owe you $3,000. It was originally 3,000, but you stupid ruined my car. He is now worth 3 million. If you can't take it out, I can only take anything that can be sold from you, including your liver." Jude still looks indifferent, shook his finger and said, "To declare, first of all, it is my car, and secondly, no one can take my liver. Then try, catch him." 5 people wanted to swarm them, but the cramped apartment couldn't be opened at all, so only 3 people rushed up. Seeing their clumsy movements, Grandpa Rick's battle memory in Jude's body was instantly activated, but now he is too weak to be able to fight, so it is convenient to use a gun. Took out the small laser transmitter that was still hot, and gently hooked his finger. A dazzling white light shot out, instantly piercing one of them's chest. "What?" The screams came from his mouth, and the other 4 people were horrified to find that a thick hole appeared in the chest of the companion, and then the hole began to spread, like paper burning from the center to the surroundings, but there was no drop of blood. It's extremely scary. Fortunately, the extremely tragic call sign did not last long and died down, not because he held it back, but because the person was already dead. "OMG! Fuck! What have you done?" Jude said, "It's nothing, just for defense, but his offal should not be sold. It's a shame." Kill him! The little boss roared, and while the other three rushed over, he turned and ran back. What a joke, the stuff in Jude's hand is not easy to see, and the fool will stay here. But he wanted to leave, Jude might not let him go. After fusing with Grandpa Rick, Jude didn't have the slightest guilt or hesitation about killing people, especially killing wicked people. It seemed that this was a normal thing. Just squeezing the trigger 3 times, the 3 Bigfoot thugs fell to the ground, and then chased out the door, and saw the little boss madly pressing the elevator, but he lived on the 6th floor, and the elevator was showing the 5th floor. Pity! Seeing Jude chasing him, the little boss screamed, turned, and ran towards the stairs, yelling not to kill me, but fell to the ground after only 2 steps, with the same big hole in his body. After solving the Bigfoot gang, Jude blew on the laser transmitter and smiled, "It's not bad, one shot a kid." Ding! At this time, the elevator reached the 6th floor and the door opened. Jude looked at all this suspiciously to the door's neighbor, the old lady Bandera. She frowned and asked, "What are you doing?" "Herbert, what's the matter with this person?" Jude was silent for a moment, and the air was a little awkward. "Barbecue, do you understand? I'm having a barbecue party, Bandera, go to rest immediately after shopping, you are too old to be suitable for young people's sports." "But why is he lying on the ground?" Drink too much, because he drank too much, go home soon." Jude said. He lifted the little boss from the ground and walked into the house. "Herbert, I see a big hole in your friend's body, a big hole, is he dead?" "You're starting to dazzle Bandera again. Go home. Your cat Nancy has been waiting for you for a long time. I can hear him calling through the door." "Really? Then I have to hurry up and feed it, my dear, maybe I am really old and dim, otherwise why do you suddenly grow older?" Jude dragged the body of the little boss into the room, and suddenly there were 5 more people in the small apartment, which seemed a bit crowded. "I hope Bandera won't talk nonsense, but the corpses can't be piled up at home, they must be disposed of. I need some chemicals." Thinking of this, he began to touch the corpse, but unfortunately it was too small and poor, and in the end only got $233, which is better than nothing. Locked the door, Jude hummed a little song to the convenience store downstairs. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. Naturally, strong acids and strong bases are best used to dispose of corpses, but they are only theoretically useful, they often leave a lot of residues, and the dissolution speed is not fast enough, and most importantly, they are very pungent. Unpleasant smell, this is something Jude can't stand. As a genius scientist, there are naturally more and better ways in his brain. Olay, disinfectant, baking soda, monosodium glutamate, plus a bottle of vinegar, a total of $67. "Jude, it looks like you are going to make a big meal," the chubby black cashier said teasingly. "Yes, it is indeed a big meal. There are 5 salted fish waiting for me to pickle. Then I went to the pharmacy and bought alcohol, nitroglycerin tablets, a box of cough syrup and a bottle of Rofecoxib. It cost a total of $101 and the ingredients were all ready." The things he bought seemed to be ordinary and common, but they are all contained chemicals. According to Grandpa Rick's knowledge, as long as they are mixed in a certain proportion, they can produce chemical reagents that dissolve corpses super fast, and they are colorless and tasteless. As the sun slowly sets, Jude's small apartment can hear a sizzling sound, which sounds like cooking with cooking oil burning with flames. The 5 corpses were rapidly dissolving. Jude drank beer and watched all of this. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart that this was terrifying, far beyond the knowledge of the times. The technology stored in his brain was far ahead of modern society. At least it is a technology far beyond modern announcements. As for large companies such as SHIELD, Sky, Stark Group, Wayne Group, and Lex Group, I believe they will definitely not lose, or even be stronger than them. What I need to do now is to collect materials to make some useful equipment to avoid sudden death in this dangerous world, and exercise physical strengthening skills by the way. After processing the corpse of Bigfoot, Jude cleaned the water stains on the floor, and then slept beautifully. Woke up early the next morning, first dismantled an old radio, then rummaged through the remaining parts of the TV, and then pieced together a miniature bug. Then took the laser transmitter and the miniature bug. Jude took a taxi to the Blackgate prison. The Blackgate prison and the Arkham Asylum in Gotham City are not the same place. The Blackgate prison is a government agency managed by public officials. The prisoners are also ordinary prisoners, such as gangsters, thieves, robbers, etc. And the Arkham Asylum can be said to be the abnormal human research center in Gotham City. Only those criminals who are extremely dangerous, mentally abnormal, and have superpowers are eligible to be locked here. Such as clowns, harlequins, scarecrows, mad hats, mud faces, etc. are all frequent visitors of Arkham Asylum. It can be said that Arkham Asylum is the talent market in Gotham City. Blackgate Prison, located more than a dozen kilometers away from the outskirts of the city, was not easy to come here, and it almost squeezed Jude's remaining money. When he came to the prison office, Jude said to the guard at the front desk, "Hello, I'm looking for Deputy Warden Bob Dylan." "Sir, do you have an appointment?" "No, but I have a friend shut here and want to discuss business with him." The prison guard immediately showed a comprehensive expression, because this kind of thing is too common, especially in Gotham, a city that has long been completely corrupt. It can be said that as long as you have money, they dare to release even death row prisoners. At least in this respect, the power is greater than the president. After all, the president's amnesty is limited in number. Took Jude to the room where Bob Dylan was, and the guards left wisely, and by the way the people next to him were also taken away. "Hello, Deputy Warden." Because of his old age in his teens, Bob Dylan did not recognize him, but politely let him sit down. Who would hate the boy who gave money? "Sir, who is your friend? When did you come in? Because of what crime?" "Knowing this, I can give you a suitable price." "Price? Is it really good to be so blatant?" "Mr. Deputy Warden." Bob Dylan laughed, "This is Gotham." "Yes, this is Gotham. I'm afraid there are not many righteous people except Batman." SHH. Bob Dylan's complexion changed. "Don't mention that name, it's taboo, no one likes it." "Okay sir, let's talk about business, let's talk about your friend's situation." Jude smiled slightly, "It seems that you really didn't recognize me. I am Jude Herbert. I just came 4 days ago, but I was thrown out by you." After Jude finished speaking, Bob Dylan looked at him carefully for a while, feeling a little familiar, and then he was surprised and then grinned. "It turned out to be you. Why? Did you give me money again? As long as you can pay another $3,000, I can tell you where your friend was sent." "Seriously, that's not a good place. Compared with the prison, it can be regarded as heaven." "Your friend is called Ivy, right? A thin, poor little rabbit. I really don't know how many days she can last." Regarding Jude Herbert in front of him, Bob Dylan is not at all worried. A pauper with no money and power, a Gotham scum, what if he is dissatisfied? Lao Tzu is a dignified deputy warden, and he can rank in the second echelon in the police circle. "Of course I need to know where Ivy was sent, but $3,000 is too little. I think $1 billion is about the same." Bob Dylan was taken aback, then turned around and roared, "You dare to tease me? Get out of my prison immediately, immediately." Jude said lightly, $100,000 plus news of my friend, tell me, I'll leave. "Billy, guy, where did you die? Get out of this poor ghost." With a bang, a brawny guard of 5 big 3 thicknesses and a full 2 meters high rushed in, took a look at the situation and rushed directly to Jude. "I don't know when to hold the small laser transmitter." Jude raised his eyebrows and said, "If you dare to get closer, you will spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair." The expressions of the two changed drastically, thinking that Jude was holding a gun, but after a closer look, they found that it was wrong. "Where is the gun? It is clearly a tattered toy. I was actually frightened by a poor ghost with a toy." Billy, the brawny prison guard, was immediately annoyed and stretched out his big hand to Jude's shoulder. Although it would be troublesome to kill the opponent, it was much easier to crush his bones. After all, anyone would walk and fall. Different from the popping noise, the laser emission has only a very low muffled sound, followed by a bang. The ground shook slightly, and the Tumaturi man has fallen to the ground. "What?" A heart-piercing cry came from his mouth, and the left leg that was hit had melted and disappeared, leaving only the black, crusted knee. A lot of movement instantly detonated the Black Gate prison, and dozens of prison guards ran over with electric batons and firearms. Hearing the sound of footsteps in the corridor, Jude took the opportunity to point the transmitter at Bob Dylan, smiled and screamed at him. Bob Dylan looked at Jude in horror, pretending to shout outside the orientation door, "I just broke the water glass, you bunch of waste, get out of work." Although Billy is still howling, you read www.yuyugonshu.com, but now that Bob Dylan has spoken, the other prison guards can only obey. Who makes Gotham here? Who makes himself just a worker? Very smart decision. Can I talk about my request now? Bob Dylan said awkwardly, "Sir," threatening a judicial officer with a gun. "You will not end up doing this." "Really? You might as well listen to this." Jude took out the miniature listening device unhurriedly, turned on the speaker, and the conversation between the two was immediately played out. "Although Gotham's roots are rotten, I believe there are still some good officials, such as Director Gordon and Prosecutor Fatirm. If the recording falls into their hands, I think you, the Deputy Warden, will do it well, and then dig deeper into your black material. It is not impossible to squat in the trumpet for decades." "Son of bitch! Do you dare to threaten me?" "No, you made a mistake in the concept, Mr. Bob. This is just a business, but it was originally worth $3,000, and you rely on your own ingenuity to make it $100,000. Now tell me, your choice is to provide me with news and money or live in jail for the rest of your life, together with those prisoners who have been abused by you. If you choose the latter, it is better to exercise the chrysanthemum in advance. It is best to let it relax a little, believe me, it's useful for you." After half an hour, Jude walked out of the prison with $10,000 in his pocket, and suddenly felt refreshed. By tomorrow, there will be another $90,000 in the account. With this money, he can make some interesting things. But I still couldn't find the news of Ivy, and Bob Dylan didn't know where she was sent, but it was a trouble. Gotham, Iceberg Restaurant. This is a luxuriously decorated and magnificent hotel. Since its completion, it has been favored by the Gotham aristocrats and upper-class elites. It is a good place for them to demonstrate their status. But many people don't know that the owner of this Iceberg Restaurant is actually Oswald Chesterfield Copper, a famous underworld boss in the Gotham underground. The Copper family is one of the four major families of Gotham. Oswald's reincarnation technique is very good. It can be said that he was born with a golden key, but God gave him a good reincarnation but did not give him a good body. He was born deformed, short and fat, which put his family to shame, so he was abandoned. But Oswald did not give up on himself. Instead, relying on his own talents, he climbed up to the position of Gotham boss. Everyone was afraid of him, but they laughed at him secretly and gave him a nickname Penguin. And Bing Shan Restaurant has also become a place for penguins to sell stolen goods and launder money. "Hey!" Spit out a mouthful of cigar smoke, the penguin slowly turned his seat. His voice was a bit sharp, but he deliberately spoke with a low voice, because a low voice is what the gangster should have, not this sharp and ugly one. Ridiculous voice. "Bob Dylan, what can you do with me?" "It's better to say hurry up, I have another important event to participate in." Facing the penguins, even as the deputy warden of Blackgate Prison, Bob Dylan is still a little cautious. He is too clear. Although the figure on the opposite side is ridiculous, his heart is very dark. I can laugh with you this second. Talking, the next second will make you fly for 9 days. Mr. Oswald, I have some trouble recently and I need your help. Of course, you won't be able to use your strength in vain. Your 2 men in the prison can be released unconditionally. The Penguin's small eyes stared at Bob Dylan and said, "Do you think I will spend my energy for 2 wastes?" Talking about the Penguin, he turned his head and said, "However, I heard that a subordinate of the Black Mask just entered yesterday. If you are willing to make some accidents and let him die, I will be happy to help you." Bob Dylan frowned when he heard the words. The Black Mask is not an easy guy. As the underground boss of Gotham City, the Black Mask is more brutal and bloodthirsty than the Penguin. After all, the Penguin Man is sensible. He hopes that Gotham will remain basically stable in the chaos, so as to provide the gang with long-term survival soil. But the Black Mask is much more powerful when it goes crazy. He even clamored to turn the whole Gotham City into hell. Except for the clown, there are no more dangerous criminals than him. But when he thinks of his crimes being mastered, Bob Dylan sleeps and eats uneasy. After considering it for a while, he said, "Mr. Oswald, if he is not dead, he has just become an idiot. Can you accept this result?" The Penguin grinned, "You can barely, tell me your trouble." A few minutes later, Bob Dylan left the Iceberg restaurant with satisfaction. He believed that if the Penguin took the shot, the of Jude Herbert would be cut off. The Penguin was also humming the tune with satisfaction, but he was a subordinate of the Black Mask, who even dared to call himself a penguin in front of his face. "It was my kindness for Mr. Oswald to not take his life." He leaned his umbrella at the corner of the table, took off his suit and changed into a tuxedo he had prepared, then put on his top hat, then supported the umbrella on the ground, and posed several poses in front of the mirror. "Well, not bad." Took out his pocket watch and glanced at it. 3 minutes before the party started, the Penguin was pacing the room unhurriedly. He had to wait, because important people often appeared last. A knock on the door sounded, and the Penguin straightened his tie, thinking that it was time for him to play. As the host, he prepared meticulously and must not lose face in front of the Gotham political and business interface. The man who opened the door said, "Mr. Oswald, Mr. Ivan Strank of Bigfoot is visiting, and he said he wants to talk to you about something." The Penguin Man said uncomfortably, "Don't you know the party is about to start? Let him wait." After speaking, Oswald wriggled his fat and walked towards the party hall. "What's the joke? Can you meet whoever you want to see?" Although there is cooperation with the Bigfoot gang, Ivan Strank is not qualified to talk to himself, and the leader of the Bigfoot gang must come in person if he wants to talk. The party lasted for more than 3 hours. When the Penguin returned to the office, he found that someone was sitting there. It was Ivan Strank. His smiling face immediately became uneasy. "Strank, who allows you to sit in my seat?" Ivan Stranker got up and smiled. "Mr. Oswald, please don't be angry. For more than 3 hours, I always need a place to rest, don't I? It is approaching midnight, and I don't want to interrupt your rest, so how about we make a long story short?" Because of his body shape, the Penguin is very inferior, but the more inferior he is, the more he wants to behave like a gentleman. This is a psychological supplement. What's more, Bigfoot still has what he needs. Oswald can only suppress his anger and said, "Go ahead, don't be boring little things. 5 of my subordinates are missing. You reading www.uuganshu.com hopes you can help me check this out." The Penguin Man immediately said angrily, "That's it? You come to bother me because of 5 scumbags. This is not scum, you have to know, I only brought dozens of people to Gotham. 5 are missing today, and 10 may be missing tomorrow. I want to know who is dealing with me. If you want to know, you brought us into, brother." Tans, this is not just dealing with Bigfoot, it's also dealing with you. The penguin still waved his hands boredly. I am not interested in asking about such trivial matters. I am currently running for mayor and will wait until the election is over. Strange narrowed his eyes and hummed, Mr. Oswald, this is not a cooperative attitude. Don't you want the source of mutation? Don't you want to cure your deformed body? The penguin man suddenly roared furiously upon hearing the words, do you want me to throw you in the blender? I want to see the actual thing, not a vague promise. Well, today I am here to show you the power of the source of variation. What? Roar. With a violent roar, Ivan Strank's body instantly swelled and metamorphosed, his clothes tore, and he turned into a rhino. Did you see it? This is the power of the source of mutation. It can turn people into monsters, and they can also turn monsters back into people. As long as you use it, your deformed body can return to normal. The penguin didn't care about Strank's disrespect, but looked at each other with excitement. It turned out that Bigfoot didn't deceive himself, everything is true, and he has a chance to become a normal person. Very good. Starting today, the Bigfoot can act in a fair manner under my banner. No matter what you are going to do, I will bring the source of mutation to me as soon as possible. Good sir, happy cooperation. Looked back to Jude, carrying $10,000, and had a little confidence in doing things. Although blackmail is not good, there is no psychological pressure to blackmail a bad guy. But this is Gotham, a city where the heart is completely rotten. Bob Dylan may only compromise on the surface and secretly stumble himself. Tonight should not be a peaceful night, and early preparations are needed. Hired a car and went to a non-waste collection site in the suburbs. To others, it was all waste and rubbish, but to Jude, it was like a treasure. Negotiated the price with the boss, and paid $1,000. He can choose what he wants at will. An old electronic clock, not bad, take it away. A broken computer host, remove the motherboard and take it away. 2 Nokia bricks from 20 years ago are just right. A broken X-ray machine, this is a good thing. Who threw it away? OMG. I'm rich. A sack of smoke alarm, I guess it must have been secretly sold by an employee of some company. Having been busy for a long time, Jude felt like he was playing radiation, because he was addicted to picking up trash, and this place was simply suitable for him who was in his infancy. Jude is not a rich second generation, unlike Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne, Oliver Queen who can inherit a huge family business. He is not like scientists like Mr. Fantastic, Dr. Octopus, Atomic Man, etc. He doesn't have a laboratory where he can toss himself, and you can't expect much from $10,000. Picking up is very suitable. Because it took too long, I added $500 to the workers, so I was willing to help myself pull a broken cart home, including moving upstairs. When these rags enter the room, the not-so-spacious apartment is even narrower, leaving only a passageway enough for one person to pass and a little space next to the table. It's not enough to have the material, and the tools at hand are also necessary. The simple spray gun made by yourself is too dangerous, there is a great chance of explosion, the purity of the liquefied gas is not high enough, and the flame temperature cannot reach, so I want to make more exquisite props, you must start with more suitable tools. But the tools in the beautiful country are not cheap. Basic tools, cutting tools, welding tools, etc. are all available, which cost more than $3,000, and the net worth is cut in half in an instant. Then bought 2 classic revolvers and 5 boxes of small 5.6 caliber bullets from Walmart, and Jude returned to the apartment. The first thing to do is to dismantle. In less than half an hour, 80% of the scoured items were cleaned out, leaving only the best parts such as chips. Jude put on the optical spectacles, adjusted to the appropriate magnification, and then used pliers to clamp the wires one by one and then reconnect them. Remove the camera lens as eyes, use the track of the toy tank as wheels, cut a quarter of the set-top box as the base, and implant the battery as power. Very good, the mobile device is complete. Then a metal tube was implanted as an arm, a shell was put on, and a computer motherboard was used as the core, and action instructions were input, and a 30 cm tall robot was completed. Looking at this simple little guy, Jude showed a satisfied smile on his face. Very well, I will name you Butter Robot number 1. You will become the ancestor of the same kind. The completion of the robot is only the first step. The next step is to equip the robot with weapons. Yes, the revolver is not for him, but for the Butter Robot. First disassemble the revolver, take out the barrel separately, use the tool to modify the rotation rate, then graft to the robot arm, then insert the bullet into the back of the Butter Robot, connect the main board, enter the attack command, and attack with 20 bullets per second. The manufacturing of the type robot is completed. There is no need for experimentation. Jude has absolute confidence in his own work. This harmless little thing of humans and animals, I believe no one will put it in the eyes, and it is just right for people to be surprised. Different from the anime, this Butter Robot is an improved version, which can be remotely controlled by connecting with Jude's mobile phone. Opening the control panel, the eyes of the Butter Robot immediately lit up. Hello, I am glad to serve you, what do I need to do? Give me the butter, no, bring the cross cone. The Butter Robot turned quickly, drove to the front of the toolbox, opened the box and took out the cross cone, and handed it to Jude. After doing this, the Butter Robot made a mechanical sound. What else do I need to do? Go to the refrigerator and get me a bottle of beer. The Butter Robot turned around and drove to the refrigerator. The beer was placed on the side of the upper refrigerator door, but it was destined to be out of reach with its height of 30 centimeters. Jude was watching to see what this guy could do. Who knows that the robot's eyes flashed red, suddenly raised his arm to the joint of the upper refrigerator door, banged out 2 shots, the bullet instantly penetrated the door bolt, and the refrigerator door fell to the ground with a bang. The red light in the eyes of the Butter Robot turned into blue light, and it squeaked along. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com picked up a can of beer and came to Jude. Jude was not angry at the violence of the Butter Robot. After fusing with Grandpa Rick, seeing this scene, the DNA of rebellious violence in his body moved instead, and he felt a little excited. Jude said in surprise, the original version of you has developed self-awareness in less than 24 hours. It seems that you are not bad, man. Now give me the smoke alarm, I still need some deterrent toys. Do not underestimate the smoke alarm. Although this thing is for civilian use, it contains radioactive substances, that is, americium-241, which is an alpha radiator. If it is bombarded with neutrons, it can also achieve nuclear fission. It can be used as a nuclear bomb. Raw material. Of course, if you want to make nuclear bombs, 3-phase bombs, neutron bombs, and other big killers, it is best to use elemental materials such as uranium, cobalt, and plutonium. Americium is not enough. However, there is no suitable laboratory. Even with the talent of Grandpa Rick, Jude can't build nuclear weapons. Don't look at the animation that Grandpa can build spaceships in the garage because his garage is the most advanced in the world. Laboratory. Right now, I can only mix it up and mix a certain amount of hexamethylene triperoxide with americium-241 to make a few tiny dirty bombs, which are enough to bluff people at critical moments. Made several cameras with the remaining materials and installed them in the room directly opposite the door, apartment building entrance, street intersection, and other places. Turn on the phone, this area is already under my surveillance, as long as an enemy invades, everything can't escape Jude's eyes. Very well, the next step is to wait. If Bob Dylan chooses to retaliate, tonight is the most suitable opportunity. Grandpa, you not only gave me wisdom, but also awakened me to the violent factor. What will happen tonight? Really look forward to it. Ceres, a barbecue rice, a dosha, and a chicken roll. What other wine recommendations? Ceres looked at Jude in surprise and said, when did you start drinking? I remember you never order wine. That was the me who used to be. Ever since I lay in bed for 3 days, I found that wine is really a good thing. It can make me more energetic as I drink. You pay, you have the final say. How about tequila? When you come to the Mexican territory, if you don't drink tequila, you are not a friend. Your recommendation must be correct. During the time between serving, the two chatted with each other. Sears suddenly remembered about Bigfoot, and couldn't help asking, man, have the Bigfoot people looked for you? Jude wanted to say yes, but he changed his words to no. After all, 5 people died. There is no need for such a thing. Isn't there? But I guess it's the last 1 or 2 days, buddy, I have a suggestion. Jude looked at Ceres playfully and asked, what? You want my car too? Ceres chuckled and said, who wouldn't want it? It's an antique from 1957. There are so many people who want it. I don't understand why you, a guy who usually can't even get $100, should stick to it. A car? As long as you are willing to sell, you can become a millionaire right away. Who told you that I kept it? Ceres' eyes lit up, so you plan to sell? I have this plan, but unfortunately, the car is no longer there. Ceres was surprised, did you sell it to someone else? We are good guys, I have the first purchase right. For this, I will earn you $1 less for each chicken roll. I didn't sell it to others. Hey, that's pretty much the same. I took it apart. Was stunned for a second before Sears reacted. What the hell? Are you crazy? Of course not, I am more awake than ever, the car just changed its form, it is still by my side. Jude said, patted the laser transmitter around his waist. Ceres said angrily, Jude Herbert, starting today, you no longer want to have the $1 privilege, and everything must be paid in full. The lady boss Anna walked over at this time and glared at her husband annoyingly, but comforted, Herbert, without a car, Bigfoot will make trouble for you, how do you deal with it? It's very simple, tell them who is the boss. Both couples showed black question mark expressions at the same time. Herbert, did you sleep stupid for 3 days? What nonsense are you talking about? You should run away at this time, or look forward to Batman coming. Did he? Suddenly, Jude's cell phone rang, he looked down, then smiled, don't worry, I'm sure to deal with it. On the screen of the mobile phone, 4 big men in black windbreakers walked quickly into the street. Without any hesitation, they went straight to the apartment building where Jude lived. Suspicious guy, let me see what you guys are here for. Jude scooped up the barbecue rice with a spoon, stuffed it in his mouth, watching the picture from the monitor carefully. The moment they entered the apartment building, these people opened their windbreakers and took out long and short cannons, ranging from pistols to semi-automatic. Very well, it really came to see me. It is impossible to hide 2 troublemakers in a building. Then the screen went black, and then lit again after a few seconds, and the group of black trench coats had already stood outside Jude's room. The leader made a few gestures, and someone immediately came up behind and knocked on the door, while others hid away from the cat's eyes. But I found that no one answered after knocking several times. The leader made a gesture again, and the others swarmed and slammed the door open and rushed in. But these people are stupid. After entering the room is messy, there is almost no place to stay, and the target person is not there. Joe, what shall we do if no one is here? Wait, he will come back, a scum, just got some money, maybe he is breastfeeding in the arms of which, but when the money is spent, he will return to his dog cage. After talking about the 4 people leaning in Jude's room and smoking, no one noticed that in the corner under the bed, the eyes of Butter Robot number 1 lit up. In the restaurant, Jude tilted Erlang's legs and poured a mouthful of tequila. The feeling was very sour and refreshing. At the same time, he simply clicked a button on the phone. Command input, start attack mode. The butter robot made a nonsensical mechanical sound, which immediately attracted the attention of the black windbreaker. Someone! Who is there? Get out! The black windbreakers reacted quickly, and the guns were loaded instantly, looking for the sound source in the room. At this time, a little robot, 30 centimeters tall, grumbled out of the bed, looking funny, and the four of them were relieved when they saw it. Unexpectedly, this guy is still a robot enthusiast. The money he extorted was not for the purpose of buying Gundam, it was the stuff of Neon Country. Haha, I'm not sure. They were laughing at Jude, but they did not prevent the red light flashing in Butter Robot No One's eyes, suddenly raised their arms and fired violently. The revolver barrel on the arm turned rapidly, ejecting 2 tongues of flame. The accuracy of the robot far exceeds that of human beings. Even with 20 rounds per second, it can still die without injury. 3 of the 4 black windbreakers were headshots, beaten like a watermelon, and the other had their limbs penetrated but was not dead. Then the butter robot grumbled and drove in front of the surviving black windbreaker, and the barrel of the black arm was aimed at him. Instruction: prohibit action, offenders, kill without pardon. Even though the black windbreaker was in pain, he didn't dare to move any more, only cursing in his heart, this unlucky task. Good boy. In the restaurant, Jude slapped his thigh and praised him. I took a few sips of the remaining agave, paid exactly the same amount, even tipped 10% more, and Jude hurried home excitedly. Reading www.uuganshu.com. Neighbor Bandera slept very early, and slept very heavily, and the gunfight time was very short. She found no abnormalities. In addition, this apartment is extremely old and has not many residents. It doesn't matter if there are gunshots. Don't forget, this is Gotham. Let me see who this is and which kitten is trapped. Jude opened the door grinningly, then locked it back, squatting down and looking at the only survivor. Man, you broke into my room without my permission. I think we need to talk, are you right? The black windbreaker grinned with pain, but he smiled when he saw Jude. He knew very well that it was impossible to negotiate with robots, but people could negotiate terms. In Gotham, few people dared to offend his boss Penguin. Boy, your name is Jude Herbert, right? Do you know who I am? I don't know, but I really want to know, maybe you can talk about it. Tell me clearly, my boss is Mr. Oswald, how about it? Are you scared? Oswald, a little familiar, wait, does he have another name called Penguin? The black windbreaker glared at Jude and said, do you dare to call this name, and be careful that he chopped you up to feed the fish. Jude laughed, the second question, why did the penguins kill me? The black trench coat frowned, and the guy in front of him didn't seem to be afraid of his boss. I ask you, why did the penguins kill me? I don't know, we are just following orders. The two looked at each other in silence. The man in black was about to say something when suddenly his neck hurts and he has lost consciousness. It seems I want to ask him in person. Why did the penguins deal with him? Jude felt a little strange. He seemed to only have a holiday with Bigfoot and Bob Dylan. As a Gotham Underground boss, the penguin probably didn't know him. No, he should. I definitely don't know each other. Then he sent someone to kill himself. I'm afraid it is still related to Bigfoot and Bob Dylan. Since the grievance has been settled, it is necessary to go to the penguin to ask, otherwise unless he leaves Gotham, he will definitely be met every day. Assassination. But it's not easy to meet a big guy like the penguin. First of all, you don't know where he lives. Their whereabouts are always kept secret, but if there is any place to find him, there is only Bingshan Restaurant. Bingshan Restaurant, there must be a lot of good wine there. Dissolved the 4 corpses and cleaned the ground with a mop. I felt a little thirsty. I wanted to drink some wine and realized that the inventory was exhausted. In desperation, I could only sleep for one night and regain my energy to go to the Penguin tomorrow. I was speechless for a whole night. When I slept at 10 o'clock the next day, Jude woke up with a yawn. After searching for a long time, he found a crumpled suit at the bottom of the closet and put it on. He wanted to go to the Iceberg restaurant. Wearing jeans or work clothes would only be regarded as the beggar turned away. Across the streets, Jude slowly approached the destination. As one of the landmarks of Gotham City, you can know where it is just by asking a few people. Walking and observing this city, this abandoned city, this Sin City, it is known as the city with the highest crime rate in the United States. The most intuitive impression of this city is the sense of fragmentation. The luxurious city is wrapped in the poor and old neighborhoods of the last century, creating a strong sense of fragmentation, just like Mumbai, Bangalore, and Rio de Janeiro in the real world. Most of the wealth created in the city is in the hands of the rich, especially the four major families of Wayne, Elliott, Kane, and Cobbett. The vast majority of the remaining wealth is in the hands of the elite, and very little flows into the hands of civilians. And DC's father Batman is a representative of the Wayne family. Batman's mother Martha Wayne, formerly known as Martha Kane, is a member of the Kane family. The first generation of Batwoman is Kathy Kane, the second generation of Batwoman is Kate Kane, and the first generation of Batgirl is Betty Kane. It can be said that the Bat family has rounded up the two big families of Wayne and Kane. The two big families Wayne and Kane are the stronger of the four big families. In other words, almost half of Gotham City's wealth is concentrated in Batman's hands. He usually spends money on equipment and parties. It will return to its own hands, the money will become more after the circulation, and then it will return to its own hands, like a boomerang that will grow bigger, endless, and endless. This is the confidence that Batman can become the big gold master of Zhenglian, can sit on 7 satellites, and can build a space station. Simply compared to personal wealth, even Tony Stark and Lex Luthor are not as good as him, not to mention that he has the support of the Kane family, and the beauty of the world, removing a few monarchs and kings, no one can compare to him. Of course, Uncle Scrooge has to be ruled out. This duck is unreasonable. Many people think that if Batman really wants to change the city, the effect of spending money is far more effective than that of being a police officer, but the screenwriter refuses to let him. Jude's footsteps were very fast, and he arrived at the Iceberg restaurant after walking for more than half an hour. Along the way, he saw a lot of propaganda about penguins running for mayor. "Sir, this is a high-end hotel with a minimum consumption." Looking at Jude in a cheap suit, the doorman reminded him with disdain. "What? Have you checked my bank card or credit history? Do you know if I have any money? Although I can't see your bank account, my eyes will not deceive, sir." Jude laughed, and suddenly said loudly, "This is Mr. Oswald's hotel? A hotel that judges people only by appearance? This is the so-called gentleman's style? A philanthropist who is about to run for mayor, but despise the poor in his heart? It's blatant discrimination." Jude's voice grew louder and louder. "Do you know how many poor people there are in Gotham? Let me tell you, there are countless. We are building Gotham, we have votes in our hands, we can decide who is the master of Gotham. When I noticed the movement here, many passers-by came to watch. Of course, most of them were low-level people." Jude raised his arms when he saw this and said, "Whose hands are the votes?" The audience was infected, and they also shouted, "We! Who is the master of Gotham? We! Against discrimination! Against discrimination!" Where did the doorboy have seen this kind of battle? His expression of disdain turned into horror, and Nono could not speak. However, his fear did not last long. The shift manager found that the situation was not right, and he ran out to check. The two whispered a few words. After clarifying the situation, the duty manager hurriedly explained that everything was a misunderstanding. Bing Shan Restaurant welcomes everyone. There is no discrimination here, and there is no distinction between high and low, otherwise they will often give out charity meals. Jude laughed. So can I go in? The duty manager hurriedly said, of course, Mr. Oswald is a generous philanthropist. He welcomes everyone. Please come in, sir. Jude walked up the steps and was about to enter the revolving door. He suddenly asked, wait, you guys won't shoot black guns behind your back, so I can't get in or out? You reading www.yunsha.com. The manager said with a black line, how is it possible, we are serious businessmen. That's good. Jude said that he stepped into the Iceberg restaurant and looked at it as he walked. It turned out to be magnificent. I don't know how many billions it would cost to build such a hotel. The duty manager called to a waiter who whispered, give him what he wants, don't care about the others. Then told other people, if he doesn't have money, he can dig out his organs to pay for it. Bing Shan restaurant will never take credit. Sir, what service do I need? Wine, the best wine, 1 bottle of each, I have a lot of drink. The waiter followed the requirements and quickly pushed a small car over. It was filled with valuable and good wine, and a bottle could be worth a year's salary of an ordinary person. Ask a question, is Mr. Oswald here? The waiter shook his head, I don't know, sir. Then does he come back here usually? This, I don't know, sir. Damn it. What do you know? I don't know anything, sir. Roll. After merged with his grandfather, Jude's drinking volume became a bottomless pit. From morning to evening, there were 17 bottles in total, and he was only slightly drunk. The hard work paid off. In the end, he waited for the penguin. This short and fat freak came in lamely with an umbrella. If you dare to help, you will be sinking to the bottom of the river that night. In the Bing Shan restaurant, everyone who saw him paid their respects, but someone coldly shouted, hey, little penguin. Cold. Oswald stopped, the atmosphere instantly dropped to freezing point. Hey, little penguin. A frivolous greeting sounded, and the staff of the Iceberg restaurant instantly went cold from head to toe. This nickname has been a long time no one has dared to call, especially in front of Oswald. The penguin slowly turned his head, squinted at Jude and said, who are you? A Gotham man, I want to talk to you about something. The penguin smiled and said, very well, come to my office. Jude shrugged and followed indifferently. The others looked at his back pitifully. In their eyes, Jude was already dead. Squeak. Boom. The office door opened and closed, and when Jude walked in, 2 black hole guns had been aimed at his head. The penguin took off his trench coat and hung it up, and put the top hat in order, then sat on the chair and said, let's talk, any last words? If you don't say it, there will be no chance. Facing the 2 guns, Jude did not feel nervous, but asked, Penguin, don't you recognize me? Oswald took a moment to look at it and said, there is no impression. Jude frowned, didn't Bigfoot and Bob Dylan ask you to deal with me? Saying that, the penguin understood it instantly. At that time, Bob Dylan gave him Jude's information, and he gave it to his subordinates without reading it. After all, he would not bother about such trivial matters. It's just that I didn't expect that the 5 members of the Bigfoot gang were also killed by the opposite man, and since the other side came to me, it means that the person I sent was dead, which is a bit interesting. It turns out that you blackmailed Bob Dylan and killed the people of Bigfoot. They are asking me to investigate you. The timing of your coming is just right. The penguin raised his forehead after speaking, and the 2 men knowingly opened the insurance, preparing to end Jude. I advise you not to do this, it will cost you your life. Oh? Really? Why are you? Rely on this stuff. Jude said, holding a bomb wrapped in a yellowish shell in his hand. This is a dirty bomb. I made it specially and used some special techniques. Don't look at its small size. As long as it explodes, the entire hotel can be razed to the ground, and radiation will affect at least one block. After Jude finished speaking, the two men couldn't help taking a step back, and the penguin also picked up the Bulgarian umbrella at the corner of the table. This thing seemed to be just an umbrella, but it actually contained organs. There are various weapons such as knives, guns, swords, and even small missiles, lasers, flamethrowers and other powerful props. When necessary, this umbrella can also be used as a small helicopter or shield for him to defend and escape. Mr. Oswald, under this dirty bomb, even if you have 10 umbrellas, you will be blown into a pile of minced meat. If you don't believe it, you can try it. The penguin stared at Jude closely, thinking about whether he could kill him before the other party detonated, but gave up after a while. The danger was too high. He was running for mayor, how could he pay him his life? Kind of scum. Thinking of this, he motioned for 2 of his men to go out, and they immediately fled like an amnesty. Excuse me, what's your name? Jude Herbert. Okay Jude, it seems we need to talk, let's talk, why did you come to me? Jude smiled slightly and said, it looks like you admit that you sent a killer to me. The penguin didn't hide it, and smiled, yes, I did explain it yesterday, but if I know your skills, we don't really need to be like this. Mr. Herbert, there is actually no conflict between us. You can leave now, and leave safely. So simple. The penguin intervened and said, it's that simple, whether Bob Dylan or Schrader, no one can order me. Jude frowned upon hearing this, he seemed to have heard some funny name. Wait, Mr. Oswald, is Schrader the leader of the Bigfoot? The penguin said in surprise, you know this, you are not an ordinary person, yes, Schrader is the boss of the Bigfoot. Jude burst out laughing when he heard the words. He thought that Bigfoot was just a small gang with the same name, but he didn't expect it to be the Bigfoot among Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Gotham City has a Bigfoot gang, which is strange but not particularly strange, because DC did make an animated film called Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Although the name is bad, the plot is really good. And now that the penguin and Bigfoot are colluding, Jude's brain spins wildly, and he guessed the joints in a moment. Let me take a guess, Mr. Oswald, your cooperation with Bigfoot is not the source of variation for plotting them. The penguin's heart jumped, wondering how he knew, and Jude interrupted him when he was about to say something. No need to explain, it must be the case, because for you, the most valuable thing about Bigfoot is the source of mutation. Although you are the underground emperor of Gotham, in essence, you are still a poor, weak, inferior penguin who wants to prove yourself, and your cowardice and inferiority come from your deformed body. The penguin man's face became terrible and hideous, and suddenly he grabbed the Bulgarian umbrella at the corner of the table. No matter what dirty bullets, he just wanted to kill the nasty guy in front of him. But Jude moved faster than him, squeezing his hand directly, almost touching his face and said, "What? Speaking of your pain points? Why are you abandoned by the family? It is because of this deformity. Body of. But do you think Bigfoot will help you? Shit, don't be fooled by them, do you know who is behind Bigfoot? Let me tell you, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is the ninja master of the Assassin League and the leader of the demon Lars El Ghul. The Bigfoot wants to get the immortal spring of Lazarus Pool, so he and the devil the leader made a deal, and the price was to help him destroy Gotham. If Gotham is gone, will your penguin still exist? The penguin man's hand relaxed slightly, but he still asked gloomily, "How do you know this?" "I know everything." After a stalemate for a while, the penguin sat down, tapped his fingers on the desk and fell into contemplation. The Bigfoot gang has always been active in New York. Suddenly coming to Gotham is suspicious, but the source of variation is too tempting to make his own judgment. The force drops. Jude cleared his throat and said, "Mr. Oswald, if you really want to become a normal person, I can help you." The penguin glanced at him and said, "You? Why should I believe you? First, I have this ability. I can make dirty bombs and this laser transmitter with a bunch of broken pieces. I am the smartest scientist in the world. Second, I ask you, I need you to help me investigate someone, so it won't hurt you. Third, compared to me alone, Bigfoot can't help you at all, let alone the assassin league behind it. As long as you believe me, I can give you a satisfactory answer within a week at most, but how long will you have to wait for Bigfoot's promise?" The penguin did not speak, but stared at Jude. He saw a terrible confidence in this man, and this confidence made him want to believe him. "What do you need? It's just a laboratory. Who do I need to investigate? Ivy Pepper." The penguin finally chose to believe in Jude. Just relying on his knowledge of the Assassin Alliance, it means that he is not an ordinary person, which means that the promise has a certain degree of authenticity. It is only a week or so what about giving him? Gotham, Cobot Technology, this is a large company with a certain degree of influence. As one of the four major families, although the Coport family is not as good as the Wayne family, it is not too different. There are also major industries and fields, and technology companies are naturally the focus. Even if the R&D capability is not as good as that of Wayne, the equipment is not bad at all, and it is the most advanced one that can be found on the market. As Oswald was once an abandoned son of the Coport family, after he became a big boss, the two have some connections, and it is not a problem to borrow a laboratory. The penguin brought Jude into the company, pointed to the door of the laboratory and said, "Here is the world's most advanced equipment, the best laboratory, and the most elite researchers. I will give you 7 days. Don't let me down." The most elite researchers? How does it compare to Wayne Group, Lex Group, and Stark Group? Penguin's face turned dark, and he found that this guy could not speak human words at all. "I know you can't look at your face, so how does it compare to PIM Technology, Star Lab, SHIELD, and Sky Eye?" The penguin can't help but yell. "Okay, well, you can tell if you look at your expression, then, let these people get out of here, I don't want any of them." "What?" The penguin frowned. "I said to let these researchers get out. They can't do anything except affect me." The penguin hadn't spoken yet, and the few white coats next to him were already angry. They admitted that they were not as good as Tony Stark, Hank Pym, Ray Palmer and others, but you were all dressed in tattered clothes and spitting alcohol in your mouth. People dare to look down on us? Is your head funny? Mr. Oswald, although we are employed by Cobot Technology, we will never endure the finger-pointing of a scientific idiot." After a group of people finished speaking, Wang left. Even the penguin didn't have the nerve to stop him. After all, what Jude said was too arrogant. He could only glared at the other person and said, "I hope you can do what you say, otherwise a carrion corpse will appear in the swamp in a week." "Carrion, do you want me to become Solomon Grundy?" Ignoring Jude's crazy words, the penguin also turned and left. There was only one person left in the huge laboratory, and Jude hummed happily and walked in. "Yeah, baby. Although it is not as advanced as my grandfather's workshop, compared with the dilapidated apartment, it has evolved from slash and burn to modern society." Jude greedily stroked every corner of the laboratory. He was so familiar with this metallic glass texture. He felt the blood boiling and the DNA beating. As long as you have the right equipment and raw materials, it is not difficult to make a genetic medicine in 7 days, or even 7 days, plus the verification time, 3 days should be almost the same. In the remaining time, he can upgrade his equipment and build some points. Fun stuff. Took out a freezer box containing penguin blood, took out a drop and placed it under the microscope. Jude began to observe. Time flies. Except for going to the toilet, Jude has not walked out of the laboratory in the past 7 days, eating and drinking are all in it. As for sleeping, where can I not sleep if I drink too much? Although the whitecoats were not irritated by Jude's remarks, they watched him silently, thinking about making each other look good in 7 days, but they had to admire the other person in the same state as a madman. They did have the taste of a lunatic scientist. In the scientific world, lunatics often also mean geniuses. 7 days later, the penguin came to Cobot Technology again. To be honest, he didn't report much confidence, and he just stopped his thoughts when he came. In the laboratory, looking at Jude, who was sleeping on the floor, the penguin's blood pressure was soaring. He only felt that he must be crazy, so he would believe the other party's nonsense. "Wake him up!" A little brother immediately bent over to grab Jude, who knew that when he touched the opponent, an electric current blasted, and the little brother immediately fell to the ground and convulsed. Jude slowly opened his eyes, looked around, and found that the white coat and the penguin were all looking at him, and he stood up with a yawn. "Gentlemen, don't touch me casually, that will activate the automatic defense device, and sorry, I slept too late yesterday." The penguin nodded. Scientific research is indeed a very brain-consuming task. Scientific research? No, you're wrong, Oswald. I just watched TV too late. Iron Egg Male Soldier, this drama is really good. A black line appeared on the penguin's forehead, and the white coat next to him asked in a daze, "Where did you get the TV?" "I made a cross-galactic TV set by myself. I haven't seen it before. As long as time permits, I can still make a cross-dimensional TV. Cross-galaxy TV? What the hell?" Jude jumped to the side of the experimental platform and shouted loudly, "This is what I made when I was bored. You can watch TV shows on other planets." He turned on the TV as he said, and a group of Skura people were dancing on the screen immediately. This is a TV show of the Skura people. Their country is located in the Andromeda Galaxy. Then began to switch channels, and various unimaginable species quickly popped up on the TV screen. This is the Kree. Their country is in the Large Magellanic Cloud. To be honest, the show is a bit boring. This is a TV show from Apocalypse. It's all a slave owner's brainwashing declaration. It will be boring to watch it for a while. This is a show from Shia Empire. They are either competing or on their way to the competition, which is very boring. A group of people looked at all this dumbfoundedly. Jude found that no one was in support, and somewhat bored, a shot exploded the intergalactic television. "What are you doing?" a white coat exclaimed. Jude spread his hands. "I thought you didn't like to watch." The penguin suddenly yelled, "Enough, I don't care about the TV, I am not interested in aliens, now show your results, otherwise I will tear you apart." Ignoring the group of white coats who were touching the fragments of the TV, Jude said sternly, "Where is Ivy? Tell me." The penguin man was a little angry and said, "This is my site, I have the final say." "Okay, then I will show my sincerity first," Jude said and took out a tube of red reagent. "This is the potion configured according to your genes. As long as it is injected into the body, you will immediately become as strong as Superman." Of course, the penguin would not rashly inject, but said, "Do something to make me believe you." Jude snapped his fingers, and someone immediately walked in carrying a comatose dwarf, and then he took out another potion and said, "It's already ready. This is a potion configured according to his genes. Take a good look." After speaking, he shot it down.